G'day, respectable people of the internet. Look, I really want to keep saying g'day F-heads, but the reality is it just gets me instantly demonetized every time I upload. And while I can live with a reduced income from YouTube due to how great you guys have been on Patreon, it does affect how the algorithm shows my channel to people, or doesn't show it to people. So I have a solution. Because we're a very diverse and inclusive channel, I will be saying g'day F-heads in a different language every video. If you want me to say it in your language, put your language down below as well as how to say it, and it just might happen. Halloween has come and gone, but the spook remains. You guys loved the Legions of the Damned video, but I was inundated with requests to cover a bunch of whiny tryhard emos who grew up molesting kids. I'm a slave to my audience's desires, so here we go. Only the grim dark universe of 40k could turn magical space Batman into one of the biggest edgelords walking around. Maybe it's the terrifying visions, maybe it's because your father doesn't love you, or maybe it's due to a lack of vitamin D. Either way, Conrad is a dick and no one misses him. He's one of the few Primarchs that is genuinely despised by his sons, which is a solid effort considering Space Marines are programmed and brainwashed to be loyal to their Primarchs. In this video, we'll go over who the Nightlords and their Primarch are, as well as where they're from, and we'll also look at what they are up to now. Let's get into it. When the Big E conquered Earth and then got horny for galactic domination, he created 20 demigod babies and called them his children, as they were derived from his own DNA genetics, each one encapsulating one or more of the Emperor's distinctive traits or abilities. Props to the Big E for being able to create an extremely racially diverse cluster of sons, considering he's literally the whitest dude around. I mean, we got black, we got yellow, fuck man, we even got red. Great work all round. Anywho, Chaos wasn't super fond of the idea of the master of mankind having 20 demigod babies backing him up, so he yeeted the baby Primarchs across the galaxy, each one landing in a different planet. Some planets were awesome and the Primarch babies were raised by families who loved them. Some planets were terrible and the Primarch babies crash landed through their planet's crust and were forced to claw their way through magma as toddlers. This was the case for Conrad, whose earliest memories were hanging out with the molten core of his new planet, Nostromo. Don't ask me how he survived that. I don't know. How he did it, I personally wasn't there. Anywho, crawling through lava was a walk in the park for old mate Conrad, compared to when he finally reached the surface. See, Nostromo was a dying planet, with a crime rate hitting around the 85 to 95% mark. Well, technically it was at the 0% mark, as you can't have crime if you have no laws to begin with. There was really no sunlight and everyone was super depressed. Honestly guys, vitamin D is very important. If you don't get enough of it, you'll end up as a sadistic rapist, just like the cunts on Conrad's planet. Conrad was never adopted or taken in by any families, so he had to survive by himself, feeding off vermin and staying in the shadows to avoid detection and likely death if he was discovered before he was old enough. Nostromo had extreme, rampant oppression and poverty. The crime lords and nobles basically just took advantage of everyone else, and it sucked mega dick. Eventually Conrad donned the cowl and became Space Batman when he was old enough, but instead of having a sacred rule of no killing, his sacred rule was only killing. This proved to be way more effective than normal Batman, as through an intense worldwide terror campaign, which basically just involved Conrad brutally and sadistically torturing and massacring crime lords and corrupt nobles, crime rate plunged to 0%. Which I guess means there was no change in the crime rate at all, but you get what I mean. He left their mutilated corpses for all to see. Conrad even saw suicide as a crime, so when someone wanted to kill themselves, he would actually save them, and then torture and execute them afterwards. Let's just say he had a very inflexible justice system. Despite how fucked it was, it worked a treat. Everyone lived in fear and terror of Conrad, now known as the Night Haunter, as he would appear anywhere and everywhere at any time. The few remaining nobles that were actually like okay blokes, hence didn't get murdered by Conrad, gathered together and Conrad joined them, and he basically said, "I'm the king now." And the nobles were like, "Look, that's not how this works." So Conrad said, "I'm the king now, or I will massacre you." And then the nobles were like, "No worries bro, long live the king." Hence Conrad was now the king of Nostromo. Like the other Primarchs, he was a capable ruler. He maintained the low crime rate and was a pretty reasonable dude all round. Only being weird when he needed to become Batman for a bit and murder some kids. It's important to note that Conrad inherited his father's power of foresight, something Sanguinius also shared. However, Conrad's visions were darker and more violent as well as considerably more frequent and accurate than Sanguinius's. See, before killing someone, he would see their future, and usually it was a positive one. They had been taught their lesson and were scared shitless, hence would no longer commit any crimes. But Conrad killed them anyway, as he could not go against his sacred Batman rules of only killing. This weirdly contradicts the fact that Conrad saw his visions as an inevitable future, which he would actually go out of his way to usually make sure came true. This would be very problematic for Conrad, as most of his visions were extremely negative, hence he believed that everything was going to go to shit and there was nothing he could do to stop it. When the Big E finally arrived at Nostromo, he brought Ferrus, Fulgrim, Rogel, and Lorgar with him. His armor was so bright that any of the native population that looked at him were blinded as they had never seen the sun before. Get some fucking vitamin D, kids. Each Primarch took turns greeting Conrad, and each time Conrad saw a vision. For Fulgrim, he saw him as an elusive snake. For Ferrus, he saw him decapitated. For Rogel, he saw him surrounded by enemies fighting for his life. And for Lorgar, he saw him screaming to the sky as fire surrounded him. Very negative stuff. When the Big E introduced himself, Conrad saw his own violent death at the hands of his father. The vision was so intense that Conrad tried to claw his own eyes out, but the Big E was like, "Yo, don't do that, you fucking emo. By the way, your name is Conrad, let's go." And Conrad was like, "Nah bro, it's actually Space Batman, and I don't know if I want to go with you because I think you'll murder the shit out of me down the track." But Conrad went anyway. It's beginning to become clear why Conrad was such a sulky bitch. Whilst pretty much all the other reunions that the Primarchs had with their father were positive, Conrad literally witnessed his own death. Conrad was placed under Fulgrim to learn how the Imperium worked and how the Space Marine Legions and Primarchs worked together. Conrad was given command of the Nightlords, Space Marines enhanced by his own DNA, as his own personal army, and he began to aid in the Emperor's Great Crusade. Now at this point the Nightlords weren't total dicks yet. The recruits had come from Terra, not Nostromo, and had been trained as such. However, over the years, the Terran-born Nightlords slowly died off, and reinforcements came from Nostromo, as was common practice for each legion. The problem with this is as soon as Conrad left Nostromo, crime rates and corruption skyrocketed back to their usual pre-Night Haunter levels, as Conrad did not make any effort to establish a lasting police force or deal with the core of the problem. He was just one big-ass band-aid. Hence the best physical Astarte candidates usually turned out to be big nasty ass criminals. Hence the Nightlords were flooded with rapists, murderers, pedophiles, and people that watch One Mind Syndicate. This isn't to say they weren't incredibly effective, however. They rarely engaged in actual warfare and instead used insane terror tactics to scare their enemy into submission. A planetary governor rebelled, so they murdered him and then played the agonizing sound of his daughter screaming on loudspeaker all over the planet. Needless to say, the rebels gave up pretty quick after that. It got to a point where planets would join the Imperium or cease rebellion instantly if they heard that the Nightlords were on their way. Honestly, if they maintained this, then they would have been sweet. They were cunts, yes, but they were effective cunts, and we all know the Big A loves a good effective cunt. However, Conrad's visions kept getting more and more fucked, and his legion kept filling up with more and more scumbag criminals. It got to a point where the Nightlords were crusading for the fun of it, massacring and torturing innocent people for sadistic pleasure, rather than to expand the borders of the Imperium. Many of them felt no loyalty to Conrad, as he was batshit insane, so the legion began to fracture. It culminated in Conrad having an especially bad vision of the Horus Heresy, where he saw Astartes killing each other. He was like the Fulgrim, "Yo, bro, these visions are getting kind of horrific, and I think the Great Crusade is gonna end in civil war." And Fulgrim was like, "Ooh bro, that sucks, lol." And he went off and told Dawn. Now Dawn is a cool guy, but he's also a massive asshole, and he did not react well. Conrad reacted really badly to Dawn reacting badly, and it ended with Dawn getting disemboweled. He's a Primarch, so it was all good, but yeah, this was the last straw for Conrad. He was imprisoned, decided to break out and massacre some Space Marines along the way. He then fucked off with his legion to the warp. So you've got Conrad, who crawled his way out of the planet's crust, had no family, no friends, didn't see the sun for his entire life, grew up on a planet full of crime, was plagued by terrible visions that often came true, had a vision of his own death at the hands of his father, has a vision of the galaxy burning, his legion becomes a bunch of degenerate criminals that don't respect him, Fulgrim betrays his trust, and then Dawn gives him a hard time. It's really not hard to see why Conrad joined Horus during the heresy. The interesting part though is Conrad did not join Chaos. He did not pledge to any of the gods, he did not use any demons, and he did not get corrupted by Chaos. He just hated everything and thought it would be a good way to destroy everyone. After Conrad ran away, he did what any emo edgy kid would do. He went home and he blew up his own planet. Rightio, Conrad. Even the Emperor who blew up the planets for fun was like, alright dickhead, time to come home and get a good old spanking. And Conrad was like, no, I don't wanna! Before Conrad could be spanked, however, Horus had his little shit fit and declared jihad on the Emperor. To everyone's surprise, the Nightlords were one of the few legions that went to Istvan to help the Loyalists defeat Horus and his fellow traitors. Except he didn't, and he just betrayed the Loyalists and he anally raped them. Not sure why they didn't see that one coming. Ferrus lost his head to Fulgrim, Korax disemboweled Lorga but was fought off by Conrad, and Vulcan had a nuke dropped on him, which for Vulcan is just a minor inconvenience. What was a major inconvenience was Conrad kidnapping Vulcan after he regenerated, and then torturing the living shit out of him, trying to find ways to murder him but becoming frustrated when none of them would work. He was also unable to crush Vulcan's spirit either, which infuriated him. After a bit of a fuck around, Vulcan breaks free and beats Conrad to a pulp, but he does not kill him. Conrad would then go on to get gangbanged by Sanguinius the Lion and Gulliman before being ejected into space, something he was once again able to survive. The Nightlords continued their reign of terror throughout the galaxy, and even took part in the Siege of Terra. There's this one scene which I absolutely love from the siege, where a cocky Nightlord captain wielding a powerful demon sword is killing blood angels all the while thinking how good he is to himself, even though the demon sword is the one doing all the work. He challenges a legendary blood angel captain to a duel, and the blood angel captain fucks him up because his demon sword deactivated itself to troll the Nightlord. As the Nightlord is dying, it shows their true colours, as he is scared of death and he actually cries for help. You might say, that's bad writing, Space Marines have no fear, blah blah. You gotta remember that Nightlord Space Marines were criminal children who were given demigod powers. They are obviously gonna be cocky little shits and crumble when faced with a real foe, just like bullies in real life. After Horus got fucked by the Emperor and the traitor legions were driven back to the Eye of Terror, Conrad and his Nightlords set up a new fortress made out of living things stitched together. Not sure how that's supposed to work in terms of structural integrity, but let's roll with it. An assassin rocks up and Conrad is like, I could totally kill you right now, but to prove some stupid irrelevant point that no one actually cares about, instead I'm gonna let you kill me. So then Conrad died. Permanently. As Conrad wasn't a demon prince, that means he cannot be respawned by the Chaos Gods. He is as dead as Ferrus, which is very, very dead. Now I might not have sold it to you, but Conrad was the most tragic of the Primarchs. He wanted to be Batman, and he committed the atrocities he did because he believed it was the right thing to do, at least initially. There's even this excerpt which I want to read out which highlights this. This is Conrad speaking. I was gone only a handful of years before everything soured. My own home world poisoned my legion with recruits who were worthless as soldiers. Rapists, murderers, thieves, the scum, the dregs, the detritus. Sevatar almost laughed. Sire, you are no different. The Legion is disorderly and vile because it is cast in your image. No. Curse drenched the single syllable in regret. No, you don't understand. I've never claimed to be perfect, Sevatar, but I became the sinner, the monster, the night haunter, so my people would never have to. And look at the result. Look at the recruits from Nostramo. Less than a decade after I departed. Look at the filth they send me. Look at the disgusting dregs of humanity my own apothecaries infused with my genetic material and reforged into transhumans. The eighth is poison, Sev. Generations of men who are murderers in my image, yet devoid of my conviction. They are killers and abusers because they want to be, not because someone has to be. I honestly believe that if Conrad never had his demented visions, or if the Big E had been more caring and helpful when Conrad did, then Conrad never would have turned traitor, at least not initially. Conrad's mental state was constantly deteriorating because he believed his future is set in stone, to a point where he would go out of his way to make sure what he saw is what happened, despite it being very easy to change. The Nightlords are currently broken and scattered into various warbands. With their Primarch dead and a legion consisting of bullies, there isn't much cohesion. Some have gone off and pledged themselves to chaos fully, but the majority are just renegades that come out during Halloween and spook people. I swear to God, if this video doesn't get demonetized, I'm gonna commission so much fucking hentai and shove it down everyone's throats. I was a good boy, I waited till the 3-minute mark before I said cunt. Let's see how I go. And that does us for today, guys, the history and lore of Conrad and his emos. If you enjoyed and want to support the channel, then hit me up on Patreon. Supporters get access to special rewards, you can play with me, and there's a shitload of custom-made hentai as well. Only costs $1 to join. Join the Discord for more memes, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.